kids. My brother, Jason, will be starting his first semester of college at the end of the month. He worked as a receptionist during the summer, and he used some of the money to buy a car with our parents' help. My parents also threw him a graduation party in July, and they had a lot of people from church over too. Some of his friends came, but he had another party at someone's home without a church because my parents had a lot of rules, and he also said that it wasn't much of a party. They didn't allow drinking or any music that wasn't Christian, so he had another party with his friends where they could. I didn't want to be home for the party my parents had, but they forced me to be there and wouldn't let me go anywhere else, and whenever I talk to them about things from the past, they don't believe me and don't really take it seriously. My brother used to touch me even when I tell him to stop, and my parents would almost always take his side for some reason. There were other times where he'd say things to me too, and when I asked him to stop, he just wouldn't listen. When I would watch TV sometimes, he'd sit down next to me and start touching my feet/legs, and when I asked him to stop, he wouldn't and found it funny. There were also other times when he would say things to me too, and he said them for years and just wouldn't stop. I used to exercise/stretch in the family room before bed while watching TV, but he would come in after mom and dad went upstairs and make comments about my legs or just sit in on his phone without saying anything, and again, he wouldn't listen when I asked him to stop. He also had a habit of randomly asking me to do the splits or hold up one leg whenever mom and dad weren't around or even if I went to get a drink downstairs, and I hated it so much that I began to stretch in my room after asking my parents if they could tell him to stop. My parents would only correct him if they saw him doing something, but he would always do it when they weren't looking, and no matter how many times I told him no, he just found it funny. I even asked if they could stop bringing him to my meets because I felt uncomfortable, but they said no because we're a family and we support each other, and I had to come to his basketball games too. I didn't have to go to practices, but I had no choice with games. I didn't even want him hugging me because it just felt uncomfortable, and he would make comments about my uniforms too and asked if I felt weird wearing them in front of people and joked that it was basically underwear too. I stopped doing gym because I began to feel uncomfortable and a lot of other things, but I still had to go to his games and stuff. My parents would get on him sometimes, but he still continued to do it, and he'll be working a job in the fall that's around other kids, and I don't think that he should be able to. He's going to be a counselor at a Saturday class in September, and it's a multi-sport camp for kids 6 to 12, and with some of the stuff he said about my sport when I practiced, I didn't think it was a good thing, but my parents disagreed and said it was a long time ago. I told one of my school teachers about my brother before I quit gym, but my parents were mad at me when I did, and it didn't stop my brother from making those comments. They've talked to him sometimes, but never enough to make him stop, and they don't punish him either or anything. They talk to him if they get tired of me complaining or if they catch him, but he never stops. He's gonna live at home when he goes to college too, and despite quitting gym, he still makes comments sometimes even though I stopped trying to be around him at home, and my parents get on me for not interacting enough. I want a dorm when I go to college, but is there anything I can do to make him stop in the meantime? I already stopped watching TV in the family room and moved stretching to my room back when I still did gym, but if I'm around him when my parents aren't, he'll say something weird, and I don't even feel comfortable wearing shorts or going without socks because of how many times he's bothered me, and I want it to stop before I go to college. Is there anything I can do to make him stop in the meantime before I dorm because I've had it at this point and I even quit my sport because of it too? Edit, just wanted to give some specific dates to when things happened. He's been touching me and making those comments since I was like 14-ish and he was 16-ish, and when I quit gym, it was because of some things he said that made me paranoid, and I'll add what he said at the bottom of my edit. After he continued doing those things for some time even after I told him to stop, I told my school teacher, and my parents were upset that I told her and didn't do anything to my brother at all. I was 15 when I spoke to her, and shortly after that, I quit gymnastics after some of the comments my brother said that made me paranoid, and I'll add those below. However, even after quitting and moving stretching to my room and wearing long pants and socks because I don't want him bothering me, he still made those comments and would ask me to do certain poses if I go downstairs to get a drink or he sees me when my parents are somewhere else like upstairs. He's 18 and still does it, and he's planning to work a Saturday multi-camp starting in September that is sports like soccer and baseball on the grass and basketball too, but also gymnastics, and the ages are 6 to 12, and I was worried because of how he sexualized my sport and would be working with the same one. So, as others suggested, I might write an email to the club, but after talking to my sister who will hopefully help with the police since he's still making requests and trying to touch me even though he's 18, although if she doesn't, I don't mind going on my own. Specifics of what he did/said. When I used to stretch in the family room before bed while watching TV, he would come in and make comments about my legs, which is why I moved upstairs and began to feel uncomfortable with him at meets and wearing anything but long pants and socks at home, since he would sometimes touch my feet/legs if I was watching TV on the couch. For actual comments, he had a habit of asking me to do the splits or telling me to spread my legs at random moments when mom and dad weren't around or even if I went to get a drink, and if he saw me stretching, he would call my legs pretty and make jokes about how I wouldn't have trouble finding a boyfriend if I did the splits on his. And stuff like that made me move upstairs. He also said that I could be a stripper once, but it was always something about my legs and asking for poses randomly that I didn't want to do, and it made me somewhat paranoid at meets with how he would say that some people go to meets to check girls out and also once that it was free porn, and I hate how he finds it funny when I ask him to stop. Update. A few people said to tell a teacher if I could, but when I made my last post, school was still out for the summer. I was also told to give an anonymous tip to the gym, and I was able to have a friend's mom help because I didn't want to do it myself. I was there when she called, and she promised not to tell my parents and that I could tell her if anything else happened with my brother. I was considering having a cousin's mom help with it, but I figured that she might try and talk to my parents because they're family. However, he still landed the job and has been there since late September and is still teaching there now. I don't know if my parents were called because they haven't said anything to me about if it was brought up at all. However, the main reason why I'm writing this update is because I'm at my breaking point. It's been 4 months since my last post, and he stopped a little bit because he's been busy with school and work. However, my parents went away last weekend for something, and we were left at home when he started to bother me again. He came into my room when the door was locked and opened it with his fingernail while smirking at me. I was on my laptop when he did it, but that wasn't the main thing that bothered me. When I came out of the shower, he began making these comments about my legs that made me want to hit him, and I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt. When I told him to leave me alone, he made a gesture towards his privates which he's never done before and just kept smirking at me while continuing to do it. I called mom and told her, but she got mad at me for not getting along while they were gone, and when I went back to my room, I literally had to push my dresser in front of the door so that he wouldn't bother me or try to come in again, and I'm honestly at the end of my rope with him. When he started doing this, he was under 18, but even as he's 18, he just won't stop and mom and dad won't make them. I want to move out when I'm 18, but I can't take 2 more years of his nonsense until then because he's living here while going to college. I was able to record myself asking him to stop coming into my room after he unlocked it with his nail a few minutes after, but I don't know if I have enough to really do anything. I want to tell my friend's mom who told me to tell her if anything else happened, but mom and dad told me to stop saying things about him because he could get in trouble over me making things up before. But, I can't take it anymore after so long of this, and I just want to ask how to go forward from here since he hasn't stopped since the things I've done since my last post. Update 2. Don't really feel like rewriting my post, so I'll leave a link to the first 2 I made. I'll be graduating in the spring, and my brother said he might be moving out at some point this year, but he didn't say when. My parents aren't kicking him out though. He wants to stay with a roommate, but it's not a guarantee yet. I might be graduated before he does. I was 16 when I made my first post, and he was 18. He is now 20, but he's been touching me since he was like 16. I didn't say this in my first post, but there would be times when he'd come into my room when I was sleeping and try to open my legs into a split back when I did gymnastics. And when I woke up sometimes, he'd just run off, and my parents wouldn't believe me when I told them. They only say something sometimes if they see it, but even if they do, they always say he's just playing and that I'm overreacting. But since my last post, he barely touched me at all, and he's been busy with a new part-time job/classes, and he has 2 of them. However, that's why I'm making this post. I had one of my friend's parents give a call to the gymnastics gym where he landed a summer counseling job in my first post, but he still landed the job. I had her call because he used to joke about gymnastics being acceptable porn that parents sign their kids up for by putting them in gymnastics because the leotards were basically underwear, and he said that anyone can just sit in a parking lot and watch without anyone knowing. Some people said to call CPS in my update, and I have called since. Nothing's happened though, and I asked my friend's mom to call too. I also didn't tell relatives because I don't want them telling my parents who said that I'm trying to ruin my brother when I talk to them. My brother returned as a gymnastics counselor last summer, and I guess it's because I had no proof when my friend's mom called. However, he also landed a weekend class through the winter that's strictly for gymnastics and isn't multisport like the summer camp, and he works with mostly preteens. My fear is that he's stopped touching me since because he's maybe doing something to someone there. But when I called the gym myself since my update and asked them not to tell my parents, he still works there now, and it makes me miserable. I've tried to have my phone record him at home since people suggested it, but he's almost stopped since my update, which makes me nervous he's hurting someone else. Is there anything I can do about his job because it's making me really uneasy? Comments from OP. He works on the weekend at the moment, but in the summer he works on the weekdays at the camp. I feel like talking to the parents would have one of them report it to the gym who would then tell my parents because I'm messing with people, maybe not wanting to go, or those parents would call my parents themselves and I'd get in trouble. Like, I wouldn't mind it, but right now I haven't graduated yet, so would it be best to do that after I graduate, or better to do it now when they can't legally kick me out because I haven't graduated yet? I already called the gym myself along with my friend, but that went nowhere probably because I had no proof. I called CPS after people said to call them myself in my update and that went nowhere too. My parents just brush off everything he says as a joke, and when I try to talk to them about what he did to me since he was like 15, they say I'm trying to cancel him when I'm not and that I'm making it up. I don't know what else I can do about him getting these gymnastics counseling jobs when he's done nothing but only think of the sport inappropriately for years. If you've made it to this point, you're a beast. Don't forget to like this episode and subscribe to the channel. As always, see you in the next video.